just like that, we saw history repeat itself once again. Hello, everyone. This is Warhawk Beyond 2040, bringing to you another edition of the Wrestling Discussion Series. And today I wanted to discuss and share my thoughts with all of you about the shocking moments that took place on the March 9th, 2026 edition of Raw, involving the Judgment Day turning on Finn Balor and what is going to happen next. Where do the Judgment Day go from here? And could this lead to a return of Demon Finn Balor? So, for what seems like 100 years now, going all the way back to last year's WrestleMania, actually, WrestleMania 41, the seeds had been planted for an eventual implosion of the Judgment Day. We had been seeing throughout all of 2025 and the last couple of months of 2026, it was inevitable that we would eventually see Finn Balor and Dominic Mysterio butt heads. Now, back at WrestleMania 41 last year, Dominic Mysterio pinned Finn Balor to win the Intercontinental title. Now, I was under the impression, as were all of you, that we would eventually get a Dominic Mysterio versus Finn Balor feud. It never happened. Throughout the course of the year, we would see these two trade words, and it looked like they were eventually going to come to blows. But somehow, some way, Dominic and Finn always got back on the same page and took care of business as only the Judgment Day could. So, for the last month now, Finn Balor has been showing signs of being a babyface, and it looked like we are eventually now going to be getting Finn Balor as a babyface because we saw him have a couple of matches against CM Punk, which by the way were really good, and Finn Balor for the first time in a long time, people started to care about him again. I've always liked Finn Balor. I think Finn Balor is a very talented guy. He's been around for a really long time. People forget that he's in his mid 40s, but he looks like he's in his late 20s to early 30s. Finn Balor is in tremendous shape, and the guy moves in the ring like he's in his 20s. It's just unbelievable. And CM Punk, as we all know, brought up some very good points to Finn about you don't need the Judgment Day, you can do it on your own, that sort of thing. So it got in Finn's head, and he started acting more serious, giving tough love to Dominic, you know, telling him to go out there on your own and just do what you've got to do. I've got to concentrate on the biggest match of my career. The title is on the line. I've got to really be focused. So we all knew deep down that something was going to happen. And in fact, you know, I'm quite surprised that the betrayal happened now because really and truly, all of this should have happened last year after WrestleMania 41. So, as I said, what seemed like 100 years, they finally pulled the trigger. So, this week on Raw, all of the Judgment Day were in the ring, and you could clearly see that something was going to happen. I knew something was going to happen, but I didn't think it would lead to a betrayal. I thought maybe they'll hash out their differences and then just carry on as normal, and then maybe we might get it before WrestleMania or something. And Finn, as I said, people are really caring about him again. And I really hope WWE don't drop the ball with this guy because Finn Balor, you know, he doesn't really need the Judgment Day. And in fact, I would probably say that the Judgment Day hasn't felt like the Judgment Day in quite a long time. Ever since they dropped Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley from the group, it hasn't really felt the same. They're still entertaining. I still like them, but they haven't really mattered for quite a while. And it seemed like to me, apart from Finn Balor, Dominic Mysterio, and even Liv Morgan to a point, there's nobody in the group that I really care about. I don't really find any of them interesting. Although I would say Raquel Rodriguez has really picked her game up. She has improved in the ring so much, and she's had some really good matches. And her promo work is not all that. She's not a great talker, but I tell you what, her actions speak louder than her words, and she is phenomenal in the ring. And I'd like to see her at some point maybe have a singles run because I think she's more than earned it. JD McDonough, does anyone really care about that guy? I don't. Roxanne Perez, very nice looking, very talented, but I feel like they just put her in there just to make the numbers up. I think she should be out there on her own, doing her own thing. So Finn pretty much told Dominic to his face that, you know what, maybe your dad was right. You are a spoilt little prick, and the whole place just popped. And I thought, oh boy, here we go. This is going to be it. If they don't pull the trigger on this, then I will kick my furniture. So things were getting really heated. Dominic shoved Finn, got in his face, and Finn pretty much delivered a heel kick to him, took off his jacket, and it looked like Finn was going to really deliver the ass whooping to Dominic that he's been so long overdue for. And then Liv Morgan got involved and Raquel got involved. But the one moment that really took me by surprise was JD McDonough delivered a brutal clothesline to Finn Balor, which I did not see coming because, JD McDonough, he's been, you know, pretty much Finn Balor's main guy. He's been his student. They have a long history together, teacher and student relationship, and they're practically closer than brothers. Sometimes I almost remind myself that they're not related because they do look very similar. And all of the Judgment Day got involved. They all beat down Finn Balor. Dominic got out the chair. He delivered a frog splash, and then he delivered a second frog splash, this time onto the steel chair on top of Finn Balor. And just like that, Finn Balor was kicked out of the Judgment Day. And as I said at the beginning, for those of you who may not know what I mean by that, we saw history repeat itself once again. So, for those of you who are wondering, what does that even mean? Let's go back in time, shall we? So, in 2022, Edge formed the Judgment Day with Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest. Finn Balor joined the Judgment Day. The Judgment Day turned on the group's founder, Edge. So there you have it. So fast forward to 2024, the Judgment Day turned on Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest. And Finn Balor was there. Now, fast forward to 2026, just almost 2 years later, Finn Balor is kicked out of the Judgment Day. The Judgment Day turn on him. Hence, history repeating itself once again. Interesting times. It's kind of cool how everything comes full circle. So, Damien Priest, Rhea Ripley, and now Finn Balor are out of the Judgment Day. Dominic Mysterio, although he's not an original member as such, he's pretty much the only one left of the old Judgment Day. So now we've got Dominic Mysterio, Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez, and JD McDonough. It doesn't even look like the Judgment Day anymore. But this was a big moment. It was a big shocking moment. I'm so glad they finally pulled the trigger because I have been begging for this to happen because it just seemed like, will they ever do this? Will they ever pull the trigger? But they have. So now what this means, it looks like going forward, Finn Balor is now a face and back on his own, which I'm really happy about because he's a talented guy. He doesn't really need the Judgment Day, and I like to see him have another singles run. Maybe after he's finished feuding with the Judgment Day, maybe he can go to SmackDown and do something different. But we'll see, really. So now that the Judgment Day has kicked out Finn Balor, we know this is probably going to lead to a match between Dominic Mysterio and Finn Balor at WrestleMania 42. But I believe that we will see Finn Balor revert back to his Demon Finn persona. I think that's what we'll probably get. But I think we'll probably get that for WrestleMania. So we'll see teases of the Demon coming back throughout the build up to WrestleMania 42. And I think on the day, Finn Balor will come out in his full demon attire and makeup and body paint and take on Dominic Mysterio. But I do think that the betrayals are not going to stop there. I sense another one coming. Now, there are two ways I see a betrayal coming. Now, there's a possibility that Raquel Rodriguez could cost Liv Morgan the women's title, allowing Stephanie to retain. That could be a good twist. Or we could see, hence the history repeats itself again, Dominic Mysterio turns on Liv Morgan and hooks up with Stephanie. Someone get me my radiation suit. The nuclear heat is through the roof. It's radioactive level. That's another thing I think I could see happening because, the Judgment Day has pretty much run its course now. They're not interesting anymore. Entertaining? Yes. Do they matter? No, they don't. Should they have ended a year ago? Absolutely. Definitely. The payoff should have been last year. But we're getting it now. Let's hope it delivers and let's put this to bed now because, you know, unless you're a DX or an Evolution, the Judgment Day have been around for almost getting near to 4 years. DX had a run of probably over 3 years. Evolution the same as well. Because they were talented, they were interesting. You had the personalities, but the Judgment Day after they lost Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest, there's nobody interesting. And now they've lost Finn Balor, which is a good thing. Don't get me wrong. Dominic is the only one who's got the interesting personality, and probably Liv Morgan as well. JD, I don't care for. Talented guy, but I don't care about him. Raquel Rodriguez, very nice looking, but I do care about her. I'm starting to care more about her now than I did before because she has improved. But other than that, the Judgment Day has ceased to be interesting for a long time. But the implosion itself that took place on Raw, very enjoyable. Looking forward to seeing where this goes. But about bloody time. That's all I'm going to say. About time. So, anyway, that's going to be it from me. I am going to wrap this up now. What was your thoughts on the Judgment Day turning on Finn Balor? Were you shocked? Did you see this coming? Do you think this could lead to a match between Finn Balor and Dominic Mysterio at WrestleMania 42? And could this lead to Finn Balor reverting back to his Demon Finn persona? Do you think we could see that again? And also, what does this mean for the Judgment Day itself? Do you think we could see another betrayal, perhaps? And what do you think the reasons were for the Judgment Day turning on Finn Balor? You know what to do, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below, and I will see all of you next time for another edition of the Wrestling Discussion Series. So until next time, take care, everybody, and stay safe. And once again, as always, much appreciated. Thanks for listening.